Thank you, Michael.
Walking Dead.
What do you say?
Thank you. We have a sold-out crowd here, and we thank you so much for the movie that we just watched.
I'm eating a pickle too.
Move the mouse.
Green one or old one?
I'll open it up straight to go for questions. We'll start right over here.
Hi, I was wondering if you know if Hillary did see your film or not.
I don't know. I don't want to know, really. I mean, I have no connection to the Hillary campaign. They didn't know I was doing this. They know now because it's been on #1 on iTunes for 10 days. And Amazon just picked it up. Little mom and pop shop up the road from you. So, you know, by the end of next week, hopefully millions of people will have seen it. It's obviously not something she can endorse because, well, I tell people that she killed Vince Foster, so. No way can they get behind this movie. I hope she likes it. I have a feeling she has a good sense of humor. And maybe she'll appreciate that somebody is finally saying something positive about her instead of, and even from her own campaign. It seems like a lot of the campaign is to make us afraid of Trump and to scare people into voting, but that's a risky maneuver, and I think it's better to give people the positive reasons to go vote for her. And this message is coming from somebody who disagrees with her politically on many things and has never voted for her. So, you know, I'm getting a lot of feedback from people around the country who've seen the movie. We've got it in 51 cities now. We still don't have a distributor. I'm just sending it out to theaters.
Wow.
And I think it's having a good impact, especially amongst people who were planning on not voting after seeing the movie, decide that they're going to vote.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Michael,
Yes.
2 questions. Do you know if you persuaded any Trump voters to vote for Hillary? And did you get any pushback from Trump voters after the end of the show?
Well, yes, there were about 800 seats in that theater. 400 of them were Hillary supporters, and another, I'd say about 100, 150 were Trump supporters. 100 to 150 were people who weren't going to vote, and then less than 100 were people that were voting third party. We interviewed people coming in, and we interviewed them going out, so because I wanted to know what the response was. But you could kind of see it. A lot of the Trump guys loosened up a little bit and started laughing, and a lot of them were there with their wives and girlfriends, so they couldn't leave. So they had to stay. But yes, some of the Trump voters told us afterwards that they were going to think about it. And I asked one guy, I said, well, what made you say you want to think about it? And he said it was that photograph you showed of her holding that baby in that country you went to. I said, yeah. I said, because it showed her as a human being, right? Not the she-devil that she's portrayed as, or you just never see this side of her. Maybe partly that's her own fault, I don't know, but I think the media has had a narrative about her for a long time, and I don't like the narrative. And I thought I'd tell some stories of my limited contact with her and what I saw. So I think that moved some people, and it's hard to move guys, though. It's hard to move guys, but
Michael?
Yeah.
Speaking of moving people, a lot of Bernie supporters are going for Jill Stein or Gary Johnson. What would you say to those folks?
well, I respect them. I mean, I understand how they feel, and I voted for a lot of third party in my lifetime, because I think you should vote for who your conscience tells you to vote for. So I don't wag my finger at them or berate them or whatever. I don't think that gets you anywhere with them anyways. What I do say to them about this election is that I agree we need to change the system in this country. We need to have 3, 4, 5 political parties, major parties. Canada has 5. You know, they're a nation of 34 million people, but they believe that they need 5 parties to cover the broad spectrum of political thought in Canada. We have 325 million people. 2 parties are never going to represent the wide variety of thinking in this country. So what I say to them is I promise that after the election to work with you to change the system so that 3rd and 4th parties are not just afterthoughts, but real. They're in the debates, they get funding, the whole deal. So I say that because I mean it, but it also gets them to listen a little bit. And then I just say to them, you know, she's adopted 2/3 of Bernie's positions. That never happens. I remember working for Jesse Jackson when he ran in '88. And anybody remember that?
Yes.
And he won the Michigan primary. He won a lot of primaries. Dukakis didn't adopt a single one of his planks, of Jesse's planks. That never happens. Hillary's adopted 2/3 of Bernie's stuff. And instead of being bitter about it, I don't feel bitter about the whole Bernie thing because we won 22 states. A socialist won 22 states. Almost half the country. Come on. You know, don't be all like, you know, vote for Jill Stein. You know, it's like, dude, I mean, this is like, we did something historic with this election, and it's going to continue. These kids, these 18 to 35-year-olds, are going to continue it. You know what? Every year in this country, 3 million 17-year-olds turn 18. 3 million a year. By the next election, there's going to be 12 million more of these kids. The non-haters. The ones we raised. This is good news. This is all good news. And finally, you know, if you could just think about voting for Hillary, I'm going to be busy on November 9th, making sure she says she's going to do what she's going to do. And I will lead the revolution against her if she doesn't. So if you'll do me the favor of voting for her, and as you're in the booth, just keep in mind, we are not being asked to vote for Margaret Thatcher. Usually when the first woman, or the first anything, or the token, right? When you got the token, you get Clarence Thomas. When you get the first woman, you get Sandra Day O'Connor. That's what we're used to. First woman in Britain, Margaret Thatcher. I don't know if you're old enough to remember how bad Indira Gandhi and Golda Meir were, but I mean, this was not good. We're not being asked to vote for any of those kinds of people. We're being asked to vote for somebody who, in her first answer there in the last debate, talked about income inequality and gay marriage, which now is called marriage. So, damn, come on. Oh, you know, okay, so she's not everything. You know, doesn't everybody in the room have a couple siblings? You know, there's one sibling that's maybe a little better than the other one. But if you're left with just that, the one who's not as good, you still love that one. That one's almost as good. I don't know. Gary Johnson, that's just Looney Tunes. So.
Michael, at one point in one of your movies, you had the statement, "Don't vote, it only encourages them."
Right.
And I wonder if this is an entirely different election, or if you've just changed your tune in that regard.
No, I haven't. I'm not the one who's changed. The country has changed. I used to be way out on a limb when I was trying to stop the Iraq War. You know, I got booed off the Oscar stage on the 4th night of the war. You know, 29 Democratic senators voted for the war. The New York Times endorsed the war. The New Yorker magazine endorsed the war. All the liberals You remember Al Franken was in favor of the invasion of Iraq. I mean, that's really how alone I remember feeling. It was me and the Dixie Chicks and Bill Maher.
Nice company.
But it was also millions of people in the streets the month before the war, if you remember that. You were probably some of them.
Yeah.
So, you know, the country has come to the left. In just 12 years, you know, you can marry a person of the same gender. We twice elected a man whose middle name was Hussein. I didn't change. I'm still the same person. The country changed. So it's gone from my saying some things like that, or I used to talk about not the lesser of two evils, but the evil of two lessers. I trademarked. I forgot to trademark many of these sayings, but that's how. Yeah, but now it's changed. It's better. The country is better and getting better. And the scary part about Trump, why it feels scary, is anything that's dying in its last gasp is fighting for air, fighting to breathe, and fighting to live and continue. But this particular living organism is on its last legs. We are not going to live in a world ruled by misogyny and racism, and hopefully not greed, and the idea of narcissism being the organizing principle is just, nobody wants to live in that world. Well, 40 to 50 million Americans do, and he will get 40 to 50 million votes. But we live in a nation of 325 million, so look at it that way. You know, there's the 50 million who are stone cold out of it. A lot of them own guns, I realize that. But that's not the majority of us anymore.
Michael, I have a question.
Yes.
A lot of people are talking about after the election, assuming Trump loses, that we still have those 40 to 50,000 neighbors. And I also periodically hear about that this country could be moving toward a civil war of sorts, or maybe a civil war period. So I'm just curious about your take on all of that.
Well, I don't want to think about it, frankly. He's really been inciting his crowds. You know, we have incitement to riot laws. They were passed decades ago, mainly against unions and the left and black people. That's how they use those laws. I think the FBI needs to pay him a visit and ask him some questions. Are you inciting this nation to riot if you lose? Because if you are, you're breaking the law. I would like, seriously, I think, I'm not saying arrest him, but there should be a questioning. If I was doing that, if I, in these Q&As I'm doing, told you that if she loses, we need to do X, Y, or Z with our guns or whatever, or just riot, I can guarantee you I'd get a visit by the police. So somebody needs to pay him a visit for these comments. They should have done it back when you suggested that the Second Amendment supporters take care of her if she wins.
Yes.
Michael, I have a question. I almost hate to bring it up, but the emails are brought up
Hey,
again.
it's okay. I've lost 50 pounds now since February. So I'm doing my best, okay? Don't feel bad. Bring it up.
We're hearing all the hysteria about Comey and these emails again, and it's so absurd. But it's almost a battle cry on the right. The emails. What's your take on this new development?
It's not going to change anybody's vote. It will get a few people who were not going to vote for Trump. The worst thing about it is it's going to depress about 10% of the Hillary vote. Meaning they're still going to vote for her, but they're not going to do much in the next 9 days because they're just fed up with it. They're tired of it. They're sick of it. And they're not going to bring 5 people to the polls with them. That's the bad part about what Comey's done. There's a certain percentage of people who are planning to vote for Hillary, somewhat reluctantly. This didn't help them. And so now they're going to be a depressed voter for the next 9 days and not remind their family members or whatever to go vote, or do whatever they were going to do to be involved. They're going to be uninvolved now. So that's not good. I would be very worried about it. I don't know. I mean, you live in a blue state, but I don't live in that bubble. I live in Michigan, so out beyond the wall are the White Walkers. And, the wall is Interstate 5, and it extends to the Hudson River. And the election will be decided between Interstate 5 and the Hudson River. But most of Tacoma, is on the right side of Interstate 5, right? So you're safe. And if you didn't know what I meant by White Walkers, it's like The Walking Dead, but for people that can afford premium cable.
So, Michael, I have a quick question about your letter regarding your thoughts about that Trump would win. It was on your Facebook page. Would you like to add anything to that? What your thoughts are now?
No, I still believe it. I'll believe it right until the last poll's closed. I'm not going to let down my guard one single bit. I know the country I live in. And I know a lot of Hillary voters want to believe that it's all okay now. She won the debates. She's ahead in the polls. It's all going to be good.
Don't trust it.
And I know what it feels like when you're scared. You want to feel comforted. You want to feel comforted. You hear a loud bang. You convince yourself that was a car backfiring and not a gun. So I don't choose to live in that kind of reality. I live in a different one that says the United States of America twice elected a B actor whose co-star was a chimpanzee. Twice elected Nixon. 1.5 times elected Bush. Minnesota, one of the smartest states, elected a professional wrestler as their governor. I mean, seriously, Minnesota. That's a smart state, right? No?
Yeah.
It is. I'm telling you, it is. It's like Washington. It's like Washington on this side of the mountains, right? No, I think. Look, aren't you all a little worried about this?
Yes.
A little bit. I mean, you live in a country that voted. I mean, Jennifer Hudson lost American Idol. Everybody thinks she won, but she lost. Fantasia won. Who the fuck is Fantasia? Who remembers Fantasia? Jennifer Hudson lost. Last year on The Bachelorette, everybody thought Caitlyn was going to pick Nick. She went with Sean. Who saw that coming? Nobody. I'm just warning you, that's where we live, folks.
Tell it to the stone.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm interested in your opinions on both candidates have their priorities of what they're going to take care of in the first 100 days after they're elected, and just wondering how you feel about some of their selections on both sides.
You mean in terms of who they put on their cabinet, or?
No, the priority list of what they want, their agenda of what they want to get done in the first 100 days.
Well, I think Hillary is going to immediately push for a number of things in terms of the environment, in terms of equal pay for women, get the ball rolling on paid maternity leave, And he, oh my God, I don't even want to think about it. What those first 100 days would look like under him. I mean, I put one idea up in the movie there. Maybe he'll just go away and just let his kids and Pence run the country. I just can't even, I don't even know what to say, what to expect there. Not good.
Hi, I'm from
Hi.
I'm from the generation, as you might be able to tell. When they spoke about communists, it made us shake in our boots. That was the worst thing in the world you could ever have. And at that time, I was one that always stood up for freedom of speech, no matter what. I might not agree with you, but by darn, you had the right to say what you wanted to say. Today I was just appalled, and I was wondering if you had seen it, and I can't tell you which university, I believe it was in the Midwest, 2 students went to a football game, and they have image of, and they changed the pictures either of Obama or Hillary with a noose around their neck. And they were not taken out of the football field. They were asked to leave. But the school said, well, they have the right to freedom of speech. And I hope we haven't come to this in our world. I hope that if you are inciting violence, you don't have that freedom, but you can say what you want, but you can't show something like that. What's your feeling?
Oh, wow. That's a tough one. That was in Wisconsin. Yesterday at the University of Wisconsin football game. And yeah, the kid was sitting in the front row, and it was Obama with a noose around his neck, and wearing prison stripes. Generally, I think with that kind of free speech, that person will be ostracized by everybody else. And he was. And the whole country, anybody who's seen the image today is appalled. And I always think it's better to have that stuff out front so you can see it and deal with it, as opposed to making them hide. Because I want it out in the open so it can be dealt with. That's generally how I come down on that issue.
Hi, Michael.
Hi.
Whoa, feedback. My question is pretty simple. I've heard you say you haven't voted for Clinton in the past, and you'd like people to do a favor for you and vote for Hillary. But I haven't heard you say who you're voting for, so I'm just curious.
Oh, me?
Yes.
This election?
Yes. I haven't heard the words, and I don't like to put words in other people's mouths.
Oh, okay, yes. I am voting for Hillary Clinton. And, and I'm not voting against Donald Trump. I am happy, though, that Trump has put on the ballot more than just his name, because this election is also a referendum on misogyny, racism, greed, narcissism. We get to vote against all of that on November 8th. That is a pleasure.
One more.
Ask me that question, but you're right. I never actually say the words, do I?
Hi, Michael. I'm feeling pretty optimistic that we're going to have a President Clinton. What does bother me is the thought that afterwards, with Trump's association with Roger Ailes and Steve Bannon, that they go on to form Trump TV or whatever they call it, and they legitimize the, quote, alt-right movement and bring it into people's living rooms. And we get to a really fine line between freedom of speech and insightful speech. Where do we go from there? how do we address that and make sure that that doesn't change how we perceive others in our private lives that now becomes public?
Well, they will go on. There will be a Trump TV. But again, it's the last gasp. The majority of the country is liberal. The majority of the country doesn't agree with them. The majority of Americans believe that women should be paid the same as men. Go down every issue, the majority of Americans are liberal. You know, they believe in climate change. They believe there should be stronger environmental laws. They're against the death penalty. They're pro-choice. All our fellow Americans are very liberal. So they can yell all they want, but their hatefulness has been rejected, and these young people have really rejected them. And this next generation will have nothing to do with them. They're on their way out. You know, those of us my age and older, we lived in an era with people who just were outright segregationists, who used the M word constantly. Anybody old enough to have family members who constantly use that word, right?
Right.
Young people have no idea just how that word was as common as saying Kleenex. That's gone, isn't it?
Yeah.
That is gone. Not entirely gone, but it's gone.
Yeah.
And this will go. It's only going to get better. And I'm not a crazy optimist on this. I'm telling you that the young people are going to save us, and the Bernie voters are going to save the Hillary campaign, and it's going to be remembered. Bernie, you know, if we win the Senate, he's going to be the chairman of the Senate Budget Committee. He's in charge of the fucking budget. A socialist. I mean, seriously, it's only going to get better. And I do believe that if I ran for office on the platform of one charge cord for all phones, tablets, computers, all devices, I could win just on that one alone.
Well, Michael, thank you for your common sense platform, and we really appreciate you speaking with us here in Tacoma this evening, and we appreciate the film that you did.
Yes.